Hello, Real Stuff podcast listeners. Thank you for tuning back in. Today's episode is a solo episode, and I took a poll on my Instagram. I asked if you wanted a solo episode that was kind of more geared towards second trimester updates, pregnancy updates, how this pregnancy feels different from the first, how the second trimester has differed from the first, all that kind of stuff. Or if you wanted an episode that was more about work-life balance and being a business owner, being a mom, how I balance trying to do all of that stuff. And the results were pretty close. I think it was like 57% said this one, and then the other 43 said the other, which is a very close race. But we're going with the 57%, and I will do that other episode soon for you. I love doing solos, and it seems like specifically on YouTube, you guys love listening to the solos. I think because my YouTube audience is used to those vlog type videos. So we're going to keep doing more of them. I'm doing this episode hopefully to shed some light on my pregnancy experience. Hopefully some of you who are pregnant or who will be pregnant in the future will find this relatable, useful. And if not, I'm the kind of person who way before I was pregnant loved listening to pregnancy related podcasts just because it's kind of this fascinating part of life that I was not yet at the stage of, and I knew I wanted to be there at some point in the future. So it was almost like, what's coming for me down the line? And I hope that's how many of you feel. If you have other solo topic episodes that weren't one of those two options I gave, you can always comment those anywhere. You can DM them to me directly, email me, whatever you want. We are so open to ideas. And we have so many really fun solos coming up. In addition, we have a lot of great audience caller episodes. So I'm just very excited about this podcast. It's really doing it for me, you guys. I didn't know if I was going to love podcasting, but here we are, over halfway done with season 1. So excited to keep doing this. And despite how much work it is, despite the fact that it's totally taken away time from me being able to be a YouTuber and post those vlogs regularly on YouTube like I used to, I'm really enjoying it because I just feel like the depth of conversation that I'm having, the people I'm getting to meet, and you guys that I'm getting to talk to in those audience caller episodes, nothing beats that. So it's very enjoyable from my end, and I hope that is shining through and that you can tell. So let's start with where I'm at right now. As I record this, I'm just about 28 weeks pregnant. I think that means I'm just entering the third trimester. So second trimester is history. But I wanted to update you because I didn't do the pregnancy diaries that I did for the first trimester where I recorded weekly videos. So I was sort of taking notes along the way, and I want to just share the differences like physically that have been going on between the first trimester and now. First and foremost, happy to report the pregnancy nausea and all of that ickiness in my mouth is gone. I think my last time throwing up was around 20 weeks, which is a lot longer than I was throwing up with Milo. My first pregnancy, I think I stopped, my last time throwing up was maybe 14 or 15 weeks. This time it lingered a lot longer. They say you're more nauseous with a girl. I don't know if that's myth or fact. I've heard very conflicting evidence from people on that. But yeah, I was still throwing up at 20 weeks. Thankfully, that's all gone. It's been replaced now with acid reflux, the world's worst acid reflux, to the point where my esophagus feels like it is absolutely on fire, sometimes after just drinking water. And I've gotten a lot of suggestions from people. I've had people suggest, think the basic things like Tums and Pepcid, which I take all the time. Somebody suggested, actually my OB suggested Prevacid, which is another over-the-counter type of acid reflux med that's less of like a you feel it and you take it kind of pill, but it's a 14-day course that you take every day, first thing in the morning for 14 days, and it's supposed to like prevent the acid, hence the name Prevacid. So I tried that. Can't say it really did too much. And then there is also this, I really don't want to say the wrong thing here, but there is some sort of more homeopathic approach that involves something with licorice. You will need to Google this to get the right insight. Don't just like go taking licorice, because I actually feel like licorice root extract is something that's like a no-no in pregnancy, but it's something to do with licorice. And I had both a naturopathic doctor and my OB mentioned it as an option, and I haven't gone to get it yet, but Really, the acid reflux is next level. Like, people say that if you have this much acid reflux, it means your baby has a lot of hair. So I'm fully expecting a Yeti to come out of my vagina. Maybe it has nothing to do with that, but I swear after meals, it's just like a fiery line going from my throat to my upper stomach. I'm just kind of chowing down Tums. I take the Pepcid before bed. That does help me, but I don't want to overdo it. I've heard that if you overdo these acid reflux things, it can have longer term effects on how much stomach acid you create. And I don't want to do anything majorly disruptive to my system, but it's hard. One day when it was at its pinnacle, I was Googling, acidic diet versus alkaline diet. And I was trying to do, I guess I would call it a full day of an alkaline diet just to see what would happen. And it's a little weird. Like, if you look at the foods in the order of their, I think it's the pH scale, some foods that are so acidic are foods you would just not think of as being acidic. And so I was really trying to stick to the fully alkaline foods for a day, which meant I cut out coffee, anything tomato saucy, and lots of other things. And that day was actually pretty good for me. So from that point forward, which was maybe 3 weeks ago, I've only had one coffee and I've switched completely to matcha. I thought that that was less acidic. Then I went to my OB and I told her that I switched to matcha, and she was like, interesting that that's helped you, because tea and like the caffeine in the matcha is still acidic. So I don't know. I'm making things up on the fly, but it seems to be tempering down a little bit. That's probably my biggest physical thing that's going on in my mouth right now, which is way better, I would say, than nausea, but still highly uncomfortable. Additionally, somewhere around the start of the second trimester, I started having really bad, I don't even want to call it back pain. It was more just like upper butt, lower back tension that was manifesting a little bit as sciatic nerve pain that would like kind of run down my butt. It wasn't going all the way down my legs, but just a little bit down the back. And the time that I would notice this pain being the worst was always the end of the day. I'd get in bed with Michael, we'd watch a show, I'd be finally off my feet after a day of being on my feet with a toddler and doing my work. And I lie down in bed, and then that very last moment when I have to go pee one more time before bed, which I always need to do if I want to have any shot of like sleeping through the night, which still doesn't happen, by the way. I go to the bathroom that one last time, and that final walk from my bed to the bathroom is pure agony with this sciatic pain. It's like my body can't take one more bit of pressure. There's no way that it really could be fully related to like my stomach being so heavy that it's pulling me down and causing sciatic pain, because the truth is my pregnant belly is not all that big yet. And this also started early in the second trimester when it was even smaller. So it's not, even if you looked at me, you'd see my pregnant belly is not pulling me down. It's not like so much weight I'm carrying around. It's more so, I think, that my body is so sensitive to tiny shifts and adjustments in my posture or how I'm walking, how I'm standing. And when you have a baby and there's something right there in the middle of your abdomen, there are these little subtle things about how you stand or how you walk that change, that have ripple effects and cause pain over time, even if it's not just weight added. It's like it could just be a change in your gait or the way you're moving. I was actually going to a pelvic floor therapist for general incontinence that I was having during pregnancy. Like every time I sneeze, pee comes out. And so I went to a pelvic floor therapist, and I do want to get into the experience of doing that therapy because it was interesting. But she has helped me a little bit with this pain, and she actually gave me a link for this Amazon band. I can put it in the show notes if people want it, but it's not one of those belly bands that holds up your belly and supports the weight. I think a lot of people need that. I think it's called an SI band, and it's more so meant, you pull it on the sides and tighten it, and it kind of squeezes your hips together and pulls your pelvis together in the back and supposedly helps. What I will say is the band sits so low on your stomach, and my baby is so low that it feels a little uncomfortable to wear a band of that tightness so low because that's where I feel all the movements. So I can't say I've really been wearing it much, but I did wear it we took a trip and we had a flight and I wore it then, and I brought it on a trip that we took to Maine as a family because we did a lot of walking and I was wearing it around Maine. And who knows if it really helped, but got to take my doctor's advice. Next symptom that has been creeping up here in the second trimester and is getting worse by the day, and you can probably hear it, is my shortness of breath. I feel like I cannot take a deep breath as the baby is moving up more, or I don't even know if it's the baby moving up, but it's like my organs moving up to make space for the baby that is down below. Everything seems to be kind of colliding with my rib cage and my lungs and making it all the more difficult to just take a deep sip of air and relax. This might sound wacky, but I've had a few instances where I'm lying in bed and I almost get this claustrophobic feeling of there's a baby in my body and I can't get it out, and it's like taking up all this room and there's nowhere for me to go and I'm stuck. And I've had a couple moments where I've like shot up out of bed when I'm just kind of lying there trying to go to sleep, and I'm like like trying to take the deepest sip of air possible because I just feel constrained and tight in my body. And that's like a theme. I know that's just going to get worse. In pregnancy, it's just going to get worse. I mean, the baby's going to keep growing, my organs are going to keep shifting, and it's just going to get worse. So I just have to do breath work and breathing exercises to calm down, but that's been a pretty rough symptom. Today's episode of The Real Stuff is sponsored by Dreamland Baby. Ever since Milo was a newborn, we have loved their pajamas, and as he's grown, they've just been perfect for him at every single stage. So he started off wearing the full body onesies, the ones with the little cuffs that you can pull over their hands and feet. So perfect for a newborn. Then he moved on to the zipper footies, also so easy for a new baby. And now he wears their two-piece pajama sets pretty much every single night. All of their pajamas are so silky and cozy. It's their Luxe Weave fabric, which somehow gets even softer every single time it goes through the washing machine. Some other pajamas from other brands are really good quality and they're really durable, but they're super stiff and uncomfortable, and somehow they seem to get crunchier and even stiffer after coming out of the washing machine. But these are just the opposite, and they're so comfortable. So it's really no wonder when we let Milo choose his pajamas, he always pulls the Dreamland Baby pajamas. If you're buying pajamas for your own baby or for a loved one's baby, you can go to dreamlandbabyco.com and enter my code, all caps, real stuff at checkout, which will get you 30% off pajamas and free shipping. And the offer is for both new and existing customers. So that's dreamlandbabyco.com using the code REALSTUFF, all caps, to get 30% off plus free shipping. Another thing I did at the same place where I did the pelvic floor therapy was acupuncture, and I was doing that in the first trimester for nausea. Haven't had to do it in a while for the nausea, but I might want to try doing it for the sciatic pain. I've heard from people that it helps with back pain and sciatica as well, so could consider going back for that. But I want to get into the pelvic floor therapy because that experience was very interesting to me. I had never been to a pelvic floor specialist in person. I had only done a virtual visit with someone a couple years back after my labor and delivery when I was noticing that I was experiencing incontinence. This time I'm in this new town and there's this great place here that does pelvic floor therapy. So I went, didn't know what to expect. And it was just such an interesting cross between a doctor's office, or if you went into a place to get acupuncture, or I don't know, just some sort of casual specialist's office. And it was a very interesting split between, it feels like the work they're doing on me is that of a medical professional, which they are, but it's also just so casual. And so just to bite the bullet and share what I'm talking about, if you are going for the reason I was going, you literally take your pants off, you take your underwear off, you put on a little one of those paper blanket things, and the pelvic floor therapist puts on gloves and lubricant and goes inside your vagina and is like moving their finger around, helping you understand how to control the muscles down there. So they have you bear down and push and see if you're doing something like a Kegel properly. They also do a little bit of like massage on the inside of your vagina to help you, specifically for me getting ready for labor and delivery, just like loosening up the muscles, helping me figure out what should be going on with my pelvic floor on every in breath and every out breath. And I am not the kind of person who's awkward with medical visits, specifically around vagina stuff. Like I don't get uncomfortable at the OB or when I'm getting like an internal exam or anything. But I have to say, this experience was a little bit different because it's like a little bit more intimate than what they do at the OB's office. Like I feel like the OB goes into your vagina and like swabs with a Q-tip for your pap smear, or maybe goes in and like presses on your ovaries to see if everything feels normal. But they're not like in there massaging and stretching and like grinding away with their hand. And the pelvic floor specialist is doing that while just like sitting and looking and talking to you like a friend. In my case, we were just like chatting about a ski trip that she had gone on or what we're doing over the summer. And it was an interesting experience. And I was getting like a little secondhand, not embarrassment, but like I'm a little uncomfortable, but also this is so normal and this is what I think every woman who's having incontinence should be doing. But it was just interesting. By the end, I was really happy I did it. I went back multiple times. So it clearly didn't shake me enough that I was like, I can't do that again. But I did leave and go try to explain the experience to Michael and tell him that it was interesting and like different than I thought it was going to be. Highly recommend it for anyone who's experiencing incontinence. I think one of the biggest things it's taught me is exactly how I should be tightening my pelvic floor muscles when I sneeze in order to avoid liquid coming out. And listen, it doesn't always work. I think my pelvic floor is weak right now. Hopefully after this labor and delivery experience, if I have another vaginal birth and things kind of get loosened again, I will go back to her again and really work on tightening it from there. And because I think this is going to be my last child, I will hopefully be able to really work on it and get it back to square one and never go back to it stretching again or having another problem again. But you never know. Incontinence is so normal after labor and delivery and after pregnancy. Things are just like changing so much down there. So we shall see. But that has been a big change in the second trimester, was doing that therapy. And that was really new to me. On the note of sleep, I know I mentioned it with the whole last moment of the night and peeing thing. My sleep has been disrupted at this point in time. Not horribly. I wouldn't say it's to the level of disruption that we were feeling when we had a newborn, but I'm definitely, I can't sleep on my back anymore, which was my sleep position of choice. It's less that I'm not doing it because it's unsafe. It's more that it actually now feels uncomfortable. Like that creates a lot of shortness of breath for me to lie on my back. So I'm on my side. I switch from side to side multiple times throughout the night because for me, that's why I sleep on my back, because lying on one side, I get like a dead arm. The other arm gets really cold out of the covers. We sleep with a fan on over our bed. I just feel like my ear gets uncomfortable squished against the pillow. So I'm not a side sleeper, but because I'm forced to, I wake up a lot and I have to flip back and forth from side to side. I replaced my pregnancy pillow, the big U-shaped monster that was taking over our bed. I replaced that with something called Baby Bub, which I can link for you also in the show notes. It is a pregnancy pillow that a few of you guys recommended. I did a box on my Instagram story, and it's basically two wedge pillow type things, like very small wedge pillows that are connected by this little band. So the band goes under your back, and then you lie on your side. And when you're on your side, because there's two wedges, you always have one wedge that's under your bump, supporting the bump, and one wedge that's up against your back. And the pillow comes with a few attachment pieces. There's like a little extra piece that I tuck in to the back wedge. So whenever I flip from one side to the other, I move that tiny little piece. It's like about the size of this water bottle I'm holding. I move it to the back side to support my back and just like give me that extra back bump. It comes with that, and then a leg piece, like a piece that you can put in between your knees, which is good for me in order to keep my hips more aligned. But it's been a great pillow, and I flip back and forth a lot. And the unfortunate thing for me is that every single time I wake up, I feel the need to flip. And every single time I flip, I get a Braxton Hicks contraction. So just every time I roll over, there's this tightening feeling in my really lower abdomen area. That's not painful, but is definitely extremely uncomfortable. Just gets super tight and hard for probably 30 seconds. And I always feel like I need to pee. Partially because my baby's so low, I feel like she's constantly kicking right around my bladder and just flapping at my bladder with her foot. And so whether or not there's actually a lot of pee in there, it feels like there's pressure and that I need to pee. So I wake up at least once a night, I go to pee. There have been very few nights that I haven't done that in the middle of the night. And some nights it's been twice. It's not like 5 times a night or anything like that. It's usually just once. But before this, I was used to sleeping through the night without that. Usually the middle of the night, I haven't rested for long enough for my sciatic back situation to calm down. So usually if I go pee in the middle of the night, it's like a painful walk to the toilet. It's not until I wake up in the morning after like a full 7 or 8 hours of sleep that I feel like my back pain has been reset and that I'm ready for a fresh new day. So those have been kind of the biggest differences with the first trimester to the second trimester and all the physical changes that are going on here at this moment. But probably the biggest change that I'm noticing just in this pregnancy overall is in relation to my first pregnancy. Some of them are physical. I'll share some of the physical differences between the two pregnancies, but a lot of it is mental. A lot of this pregnancy feels so different from the first just because of the absurdly different life stage I'm at now. And because of the fact that it's not my first time or it's not my body's first time going through this, from a mental standpoint, first and foremost, I'm definitely not counting the weeks of pregnancy as they go by as much as I was the first time. I remember first time around, every morning, first thing in the morning, not only was I immediately Googling a question or a symptom, but I would open up the app that I was using to track the pregnancy and I would say, I'm 14 weeks and 5 days. I'm 14 weeks and 6 days. Today, the baby is the size of a papaya. Today, the baby is the size of lettuce. It was like every single day was reading the app and looking at the 3D. There's like this, the app is called The Bump. That's the app I use. And you put in your due date and then it tells you on every single day a 3D image of what your baby looks like in the womb that day and what your belly looks like that day. And you can kind of move it around. I actually want to show you if you're on YouTube because it is pretty cool. But it gives you, I'm going to pull it up in a second, but it gives you also facts and figures about what's going on with your baby in this day. So I'll just show you as an example right now. I'm week 28. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. It says, how big is baby B? I just called it baby B because like Milo's baby A. If I press on my baby, it takes me to this 3D model. So hold on. Here you go. This is what my baby looks like right now. So a full baby. And I can drag my finger like this, flip upside down. I can see the placenta. I can zoom in and look at different features. And, this is very different. I'll just show you as an example. If I go back to like when I was 7 weeks pregnant, this is what my baby looked like at 7 weeks. Kind of a little floating tadpole. Didn't even really have hands or feet developed too much yet. And the head was still very, I guess, like alien looking at this stage. So it's been interesting. The first time I was watching this baby change every week. This time, every so often, I poke at it and I see, but it gives you interesting facts. So, today, baby B is as big as an eggplant. She's 14, these are averages, 14.8 inches long and about 2.2 pounds. And if I were to go to that diagram of her, it gives me some facts. So it tells me all those finishing touches, hair and lashes that make baby so cute have a few more weeks to continue developing. Baby can now open his or her eyes, though vision is still blurry. Because baby is gaining about half a pound a week until birth, he or she may not have as much room in your womb to move. It's getting crowded in there. I could have told you that. With your womb getting crowded, baby is likely beginning to turn head down to get ready to make his or her debut into the outside world soon. Then it gives you the 3D diagram of your body. So here's like a standard 28-week mom belly or what it would look like if you were carrying a baby, and then gives you some facts about, as you approach your third trimester, here's what you can expect. Here are some symptoms you might feel. Here are some ultrasounds you might have coming up. I don't read this nearly as much as I did. I think I devoured every single word of every single day in my first pregnancy. This time, I open it every so often. I'm constantly opening it when I'm like another week ahead. So it's like I always feel like every time I open it, another week has gone by. I'm not counting the weeks. Time is going by a lot faster for that reason. And I'm not really stressing about a lot of the things that I was stressing about the first time. I'm not Googling, is it normal to feel this weird sensation? Is this normal? I just trust that everything that I'm feeling is something I've felt before. I guess if I felt something absurdly different, then I would Google it or contact my doctor. But everything feels kind of the same, so I'm not stressing. Also, regarding food, not stressing about those like pregnancy food choices nearly as much as I did the first time. And actually, I don't think I'm stressing about it at all. I can't say I'm eating everything. I haven't really had sushi or raw things. I'm just avoiding that stuff out of an abundance of caution, even though I did have one piece of sushi, like one piece of raw salmon. Aside from that, I've been eating a lot of runny eggs. Like that is part of my breakfast almost every day, whether I'm at home or at a restaurant. In breakfast foods, there's this one Mexican place near us that has chilaquiles, and there's a version of it with a raw egg on it or just like a runny egg. I love it, and I've gotten it about 4 times in this pregnancy, and I'm not thinking twice about the yolk. Whereas the first time around, if like the prong of my fork had so much as touched and dipped into a runny egg and then I licked it, I would have been a little on edge until 24 hours had passed and I was kind of confirmed that I didn't get a foodborne illness from it. So that's a big difference. The Braxton Hicks contractions, I remember feeling those a lot my first time around, like in my first pregnancy, but I think I was feeling them way later. I think they came around, I want to say like closer to 27, 28 weeks is when I first felt them. This time I started feeling Braxton Hicks at like 17 weeks or 16 weeks. I kind of think I'm feeling one right now. They just sort of happen at random times. They're highly related, in my case, to movement. So as I said, when I flip over at night, if I get up too quickly from a seat, I'll have one. My doctor tells me that they're also related to hydration. So if I'm just reminded me to take a sip. If I'm not hydrated, I'm likely to feel more of them. And they're not comfortable, but it's not the same as labor. And that's like one big difference from last time is I remember feeling Braxton Hicks contractions the first pregnancy. And the first time I felt them, I was actually upstate with Michael in Hunter, New York over the summer staying at this house. And I was so stressed because we're in the woods. I didn't know where the nearest hospital was. I thought I was like going into labor because I was all of a sudden having these 30-second long tightening contractions that were kind of happening repeatedly for a few minutes, and it scared me. Now that I've gone through labor, I know what labor feels like, and I know what those contractions feel like, and I know that a Braxton Hicks is not it. So even though I've been feeling them a lot earlier this time and they're a little annoying and they kind of come out of nowhere, they're not causing me mental angst or anything like that. Boob-wise, you guys, just like last time, my boobs are creating colostrum already. I think this is probably earlier than mine did last time, but like even if I rewind a few weeks, I think at like 22 weeks this time, I noticed the first bits of, I guess what I would call discharge on my nipples. Almost as if it's like I take my bra off at the end of the day and I look down and it's like kind of crusty white stuff that if I were to squeeze, which I know I'm not supposed to do because it could send you into labor, but I have done it a couple times just to see what would happen. And if I do squeeze, little bits of sometimes clear, sometimes milky white liquid comes out. And actually, what happened yesterday when I squeezed, which I can't emphasize enough how much you're not supposed to squeeze, but I looked down and squeezed yesterday and it was like a horizontal line shot out. Like my boobs are prepared for milk. We can get a little bit into my latest feeding thoughts, like breastfeeding, formula, etc. So I'll circle back to that because I have a note on the boobs. But I think just in general, like seeing my body change this pregnancy is a lot less shocking than it was the first time because of the fact that I know that it's just a fleeting moment in time when I'm going through this, and that my body is going to go back to looking like maybe not exactly the same as it looked before, but close to how it looked before. The first time I remember I was getting kind of attached, not necessarily in a bad way, but like I was getting attached to the way my new body looked, and my boobs were getting bigger, and I was like, I've always wanted boobs and I was so excited about it. And I was kind of reveling in my body growing. And then after I gave birth, you might remember nursing for me was when I was at my lowest weight. Like I was too thin, I think, because my body was just being depleted and I was not able to consume enough calories to like counteract that. And so nursing was really tough on my body. And in my case, after pregnancy, my body was actually smaller and looked way different than it did during the pregnancy. So this time around, it's not like a positive or a negative. I'm just not attached as much to how my body's looking in this moment because I know it's going to look different in a few months. And then after this baby comes, it's just a continued evolution. I know this time that the boobs are not here to stay, which last time would have been unfortunate. What I would have felt was unfortunate. This time, I've grown to love my lack of boobs. So now that I have boobs again, I'm kind of annoyed with them and I'm excited for them to go away again after I'm done doing any sort of nursing. So yeah, I'm just less attached to whatever's happening in my body and I'm more like on the roller coaster, here for the ride. We'll see how it changes, knowing it's going to continue to evolve. Other changes with this pregnancy versus the first, I mean, having a toddler and being a mom just literally changes everything about your experience of being pregnant from the first time. So I am completely just way more active in this pregnancy than I was the first time. I'm getting less sleep because I have to wake up earlier because we have a life schedule going on here with a kid. First time around, I was able to just sleep until I woke up, which I know not everyone can do given their work schedule. But because I work for myself, I was definitely sleeping in my first pregnancy. And now I am up with the sun and with my child. I'm working out this pregnancy 2 times a week, which I did not do any form of movement my first pregnancy. So that's different. And having this toddler, oh gosh, he's almost 35 pounds now. And he still wants to be carried at different times. And, sometimes he doesn't want to be carried, but we have to carry him to get him to go somewhere or do something that he needs to do. And I'm still carrying him. Sometimes upstairs. If Michael's around, I will be like, please, I can't do this. But if he's not there, I just sort of suck it up. And I try to put him on my hip instead of like on the front, sitting on my stomach. But we can get into this too. The baby is I'm feeling the movements on the side so much that like honestly the sides and my hips are the worst place for Milo to be sitting. It's almost better if he's smack in the middle for me. But anyway, it's hard to have to carry that weight. And it's, I see all these TikToks of moms who are like, my first pregnancy versus my second. And in the first, they're just like lounging, sitting on the couch, bed early, doing nothing. And in the second, they're wrestling a toddler and carrying a million things up the stairs and doing laundry and doing housework. And it's true. Like it really is true. When you have a toddler, that is your life. And it's just a way more active pregnancy. And similarly on that note, I feel like my last pregnancy, I really did put my life on pause as I was getting kind of closer and closer to my due date. I was able to say no to a lot of happenings and occasions and interactions. And I was kind of like, I'm in my 3rd trimester now. I'm not going to go to that, or I'm going to have a low-key weekend. Now, having a kid, our summer, which is, I'm going to be in my 3rd trimester for the whole rest of the summer. Our summer is so busy. It is filled with camp for Milo, tons of travel. We're going out east to see family. We have people coming here and staying with us, and we're having friends over and sleepovers, and we have so many fun plans that I'm so excited about, but I would not in any way call it a chill 3rd trimester that's up ahead. My life is definitely not on pause, and as I'm saying this, I'm out of breath and exhausted, but that is what is coming up for us, and I just got to get with the program and keep going. I wanted to talk about those baby movements. I sort of glazed over it, but I don't know where other people's babies are moving. When I almost want to stand up and show you, if you're watching on YouTube, this is my hip. This is my hip bone. And I feel the baby move right here. Within centimeters of the bone is where the baby is. It's definitely uncomfortable at night because when you lie on your side, if I were to lie on this side, like the opposite side, then it's just like so active because it's the side that's raised. But if I flip over onto that side because I'm trying to, sometimes I'm like, let me just like squish it, squelch it and lie on that side. Maybe the movement will move to the other side. But instead, I just feel the movements up against my bed and up against the covers. And that's uncomfortable too. So there's not a lot of comfort happening in this day and age. And the movements on this child, that's, oh, I forgot to even say, that's another big difference with this pregnancy and the first. Milo moved a lot in my stomach. I have videos of him moving. One of my most viral TikToks is like a video of my stomach moving in a really crazy way with him in there. I remember I had to get into certain positions to make him move. I would have to lie on the bed. If I had a friend over that was like, I want to feel the baby move, I would have to be like, okay, come with me here. I have to get in this position, lie on this side, put your hand here and wait, and maybe he'll kick within the next 5 minutes. And that was really the extent of the movements. This time, I kid you not, all day, every day, whether I'm sitting, whether I'm walking, whether I'm lying down in bed, middle of the night, first thing in the morning, all hours of the day, she is kicking and is extremely strong. And I feel her on, I was told by my doctor that she's actually not at this point head down yet or even head up. Like she's not vertical, she's horizontal. And so hands and head and like punching is on one side and then feet and legs are on the other side. Because of that, like usually when a baby moves, it's all 4 limbs kind of moving at once. And so I'm feeling it on the left and the right at the same time on opposite sides of my body. And it's bizarre. And it really is all day. And it's to the point where, I was at a wedding, I was sitting at a wedding with another pregnant friend and just grabbed her hand in the middle of the meal as I was sitting and eating, which I would never have felt Milo moving when I was just sitting upright in a chair. And this time she put her hand on my stomach and was like, oh my gosh, sometimes the movements are kind of twitchy, like big flips. And sometimes it's more a hand or a foot goes and pokes out and then drags along the skin. Can't describe it if you haven't felt it, but absolutely bizarre. And I remember the first pregnancy, it was such a novelty for Michael to feel it because it was rare and I would, as I said, have to be in a specific position. This time, every single night, we get in bed to watch our show. We're currently watching Sex Education. Very good. I know we're a little late with it, but we get in bed to watch our show and we lie down and I just put his hand there and he is like, he can barely focus on the show. He's like, holy shit, what is happening? This baby is she must be making full 360s, carving her name in the walls of my uterus. Like, I don't know what she's doing, but the movement is just absolutely insane. Easily feelable by anyone who's within the vicinity of me. On the one hand, it's such a double-edged sword. It's like you're so happy that you could feel the movements because you're like, you get confirmation immediately that your baby is good and doing well. But you're kind of just like, could you not do that right now so hard? This is very uncomfortable. And I had an experience a couple nights ago where she wasn't moving like that at all. And I was kind of like prodding at her and pushing to make her move. And she was just having a chiller night, I guess. And I have to say, I was definitely a little bit like nervous. What's going on? Why are you not moving? And so I would prefer the movements, but it is a double-edged sword. And it is one of those things that you kind of can't win. When it's happening, you want it to stop. And when it stops, you want it to happen. I haven't talked yet about the gestational diabetes test that I took, but I did make a post about it. And there was a lot of commentary and discussion. So when I took my gestational diabetes test, I went to my OB's office for my appointment before it, and they gave me the glucola drink that you're supposed to drink. And I know every office does this differently. Some offices tell you have to come in, drink the drink in front of them, sit there for an hour, take the test, and then I don't know why, like people talk about it being a 3-hour test. Maybe the 3-hour test is if you fail and then you have to go back for the second. But a lot of people talk about it being this thing you have to like go sit in the office and wait. My doctor, both times for both pregnancies, which by the way were 2 different doctors since I've moved, they both gave me the drink and told me like drink it at home and then come in for your appointment 1 hour later. So if my appointment was at 11:45, drink this at 10:45 at home. When the doctor gave it to me, I made kind of a yucky face because it was orange and I really don't like orange things aside from actual oranges and orange juice. So I kind of made a face but I was going to drink it. Like I'm not one of those people who has a problem with it being with the ingredients. Like, yes, I do think, if you were to ask me, I do think it's kind of strange that the drink has to have those ingredients. Like, if you look at the ingredients, it's like red 40 and I'm making up numbers, but like blue 5, these artificial chemical things. And it is a little bit weird that they give that to pregnant people to drink, but I understand the purpose behind it and it's an approved test. So I get it. And I was going to drink it, but it was orange. So I just made a yucky face. And my doctor said, if you want, you can order the fresh test online. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of that. What is that? Because actually, my first time around, my doula recommended something called glucoganics, which was a drink you could order online. And I got approval from my first OB. She approved. I took that one instead. This time, I don't know if glucoganics is still a website, so I couldn't find it. So I was going to just take the orange one, but the doctor said you can order the fresh test. So I Googled it, and it's basically a gestational diabetes alternative that I'm aware not every OB accepts as a test. Apparently, it's not actually formally accepted. Apparently, the only approved test from ACOG is the glucola test. But my doctor was the one who said you can order the fresh test. So I went online. There were a few options. You can get like the 50 grams, 100 grams of glucose. He told me I need the 50 grams, told me just follow the directions on the packet, order it at home. I think it was like $20 plus with shipping, maybe $25. I paid out of pocket. He told me that his office was like working on getting the fresh test to be approved by insurance so that they could give it out to patients, but they're not there yet. So I was happy to pay for it. I ordered it online. The ingredients were just 50 grams of dextrose, organic lemon juice, and peppermint extract, something like that. I made a TikTok and a reel if you want to go watch me actually pour the packet into water and drink it. But I gotta say, it was delicious. It tasted like sweet honey lemon water. It wasn't even that sweet. Like, I've had sweeter drinks. A Coke is sweeter than that. I think one of the problems people have with the glucola is that it's thick and syrupy and kind of like a medication, like a Motrin or a Dimetap or something like that. And this was just like drinking water in terms of the thickness and the consistency. So it tasted like an iced tea. I honestly could have that every day as an enjoyable drink. And I drank it at home. I drove into the doctor's office to get my blood taken an hour later. I think there was some confusion on my Instagram, or on my TikTok rather. I wasn't very clear about the whole timeline of everything. So I think some people thought that I was like getting my blood taken at home. No, like I went into the office, had my appointment, which was exactly what my doctor told me to do. Drink it at home, come into the office, get your blood tested, and then leave. And then the next day I got the results from the doctor over the phone. Happy to say we don't have gestational diabetes. So many people were commenting like, wait, I had to go in the office. I had to sit there for so long. I had to get my blood tested before and after. I don't know why everyone's test is different, but that was my gestational diabetes experience. It's now been my second time having to drink a drink, and I'm lucky enough that both times I was able to choose my own drink. I remember the glucoganics drink from my first pregnancy was similar in terms of the ingredients, and I feel better about drinking that. But once again, I would not feel bad about drinking the glucola drink if I had to. It's like a one-time thing. It is for a good cause to test for something. I swear if they had given me fruit punch flavor, I hear they have fruit punch. I hear they have watermelon. I don't think my office had those in stock, but if they had given me a flavor that I wanted or that appeals to me, I just would have drank it, because I'm really not the kind of person who is avoiding small exposures to chemicals like that. I said in the video, I eat Sour Patch watermelon all the time, which definitely has red 40 and yellow 6 or whatever. So a lot of you commented that you also took the fresh test and that you liked it too. I didn't get into the feeding experience. I'm thinking I might save that for a future episode, but I said I was going to circle back to it on the note of my boobs like starting to leak already and my body clearly getting ready. But we will circle back to where I'm at with my latest decision on nursing, formula feeding, pumping. I actually was just a guest on Bobby's new podcast. Bobby is the formula brand that we used the first time that we plan on using this time. I just recorded an episode with them yesterday for their new show called Milk Drunk, which is coming out. Maybe will be out already by the time this episode goes live. I talk a little bit about it there, but I'm thinking of doing a full episode kind of about nursing, pumping, my thoughts for baby number 2. Maybe I'll bring on my lactation consultant because she's incredible, and I think that would be a useful addition to the episode. What now? What's happening next? So first and foremost, we're kind of in nesting mode. The baby's nursery is a shit show right now. It's just boxes. We still haven't assembled the crib. We haven't unpacked the bins of clothes of Milo's that we're passing on to her, which we obviously need to do. We need to wash everything. And I'm so excited to say we are working with Hoarderly again, which is the personal organization service that we worked with for Milo's nursery back in the city and also for Milo's room here once we moved. And we're working with them to put this baby girl's nursery together. I cannot recommend Hoarderly enough, or any personal organization service you have access to. It can be an upfront expense. Like, it's not cheap to work with personal organizers necessarily, but I can't recommend it enough in terms of how useful it is for setting up your space to have systems and order so that you can then just move into your future and things don't get messy. I'm not a very neat person. Like, I'm just not organized with my own stuff. And you better believe if I had not worked with professionals on this, Milo's room at this point would be a tornado zone. And because Hoarderly came in there and all of his drawers are labeled and the closet is organized and there's places for everything, including toys, books, and tools, everything has a place. And I don't have to think too much about it. And now cleaning up or putting laundry away, it's like you just know where things go. Things stay very neat. And so it's an expense, but it's worth it if that is within your budget. Secondly, kick tracking. I hear that around the 3rd trimester, your doctor tells you to start tracking the baby's kicks. And that just makes me laugh because if I was tracking kicks right now, it would be my full-time job to track kicks. I would not be able to record podcasts. I wouldn't be able to go to work and do anything. I wouldn't be able to have a conversation because I'd be pausing to track the kicks. So I'm more so mentally tracking in terms of, kind of like I was saying before, just being aware of what I'm used to and what's normal for her so that I can identify if anything deviates from that. But there is no way I'm marking on a piece of paper every time she kicks. And the last thing I wanted to share is regarding the baby's name. So yes, we have a name. We've had one since the start. My brother and his wife, who are due with their first baby, also a girl, 3 weeks before us, we told each other our baby's names because we didn't want to pick the same name because they're going to be first cousins. In hindsight, we didn't really have to share the name. We could have each given the other like our top 5 names and seen if there was any overlap. And then if there was overlap, we could have gone a little bit deeper from there, but we actually just flat out told each other the names. So I know his baby's name. He knows our baby's name. Very excited. I want to do a post actually where I source your guys' guesses because I'm curious if anyone would guess it. I've had 2 people in my town, when I explained to them kind of like the style of name, they just guessed it out of nowhere. And I'm really bad at putting on a lying face and being like, nope, wrong. So for both of them, I was like so taken aback and was like, oh my gosh, you got the name. So a few people now know it. But I would be curious what you guys think we would name a baby girl. So I don't know. I'll do a post. Keep an eye out for that. And you can drop your comments down below. I hope you liked listening to this very chatty, very long 2nd trimester, 2nd pregnancy update. If you have any more questions about the pregnancy, you can always comment them on YouTube or DM me. I'm always happy to reply, answering anything personal if you want to ask in private. Once again, if you want to leave a comment or a review on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, please do so. Take the screenshot. Send it to me over Instagram DM. I've been having some great back and forth voice note conversations with people who are leaving reviews because my promise to you is if you take time out of your day to write a nice review for the show, I will take time out of my day to send you a voice note back thanking you. And I've actually met a bunch of you in a lot of a closer capacity from those voice notes. And it's been really great getting to talk to you guys one-on-one. So thank you for coming back to the real stuff. We will see you next time. And until then, let's hope this baby keeps kicking, but not too hard because it kind of hurts. All right. See you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Real Stuff. I'm Lucie Fink. Don't forget to follow the show on social media at The Real Stuff Pod. And if you're liking these episodes, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a written review. It helps the show so much. And if you're feeling called to come on the show, visit luciefink.com/apply and tell us your story. We'll see you next week for another intimate conversation on The Real Stuff.